Welcome to the Two Stewards Show. In a feudal society, there are two kinds of people: those who own the land and those who work it daily, from dawn to dusk, with nothing to show for it. The latter are called serfs, powerless, penniless, permanently stuck. Interestingly, there are millions of serfs still alive in Canada right now. They rent tiny apartments or sleep in their parents' basement or pay skyrocketing housing costs and watch helplessly as homes are scooped up by boomers, investors, and soulless corporations, also known as the new landed gentry. These are not peasants with pitchforks. They're educated, hardworking, and sometimes uneducated and lazy, but mostly Gen Z young folks trying to claw their way into home ownership status and become lord of their own land. You would never know it, but due to the hyper-capitalization of housing, there is a 21st century battle for homes in Canada that makes the Middle Ages seem like a bastion of equality. And because we are Canadians, all we can say is, sorry serfs, our GDP depends on debasing your currency to prop up the housing market. This time, we talk about that and some other stuff. To get in touch with the show, visit twostewards.ca. Remember, this show is not financial advice, but is valuable for listening amusement purposes. Now, Canadian serfdom. You gotta comb your beard.
I combed it this morning. Once a day is enough. I don't want to be primping and preening all day. Those guys. I shaved my head so I wouldn't have to deal with hair and all the vanity that comes with it. And here I am, right back in the same trap.
Vain as ever.
So it's been a little while since we talked, and lots of stuff has happened.
Yeah, it's always fun to catch up with Mark when 2 weeks goes by, or 3 weeks in this case.
Yes. Yeah. So what do you got here? You got Trump giving the doing the baby bonus thing?
$1,000 to babies born in 2024 to 2029. I don't know. It's like a blend of QE and having babies. So I don't know what they're trying to incentivize. We're going to inject liquidity into the system by forcing people to have children and then giving them all money.
Well, you're not really forcing people, are you? If you're just promising them money,
no,
come on. But I kind of appreciate the sentiment. At least it's sort of a pro.
Did you hear about? Is this like
family? I mean, it's just babies, right? There's no expectation of a nuclear family, so we'll see. Well, I mean, that's one of the criticisms of sort of the welfare programs that are in the States, that it incentivizes single moms just to have lots of babies.
Yeah.
Right? Because they get benefits for each baby, and once you're past the cost of shelter and all that stuff, it really adds up. It's extra. So, anyways, I don't know what I don't know how you would legislate that, but yeah, that's the idea, right? $1,000 in a bank account for any babies born, and till 2029. They're going to extend that. I don't think this is a program they're going to stop, right?
Yeah, once they start, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government measure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I just pulled up the news article, so I downloaded this app. Did I text you this app? This is an app that basically converts any price on your computer to or on your browser to Bitcoin.
The missed opportunity.
Yeah. So now I'm reading the news article. It's like, what experts think about the $1,000, 928,583 sats Trump account for babies. And it's like, it puts the two currencies beside each other. You see, you could get 900,000 sats if you had a baby. So anyway, it's a bit distracting from the main point.
It is, but also not really, because I lost my train of thought already, but what is the point of it, and what are you going to do with it? And sorry, the phone's going off. Will you have choice, right? I don't think we have the details yet of where that money's going to go, and what, it's going to be to a bank somewhere. So, okay, which bank? Or is it going to be the Fed bank? It's going to be the federal government. Right. So I listened to George Gammon about this, and he was all over like, this is the, a new CBDC and et cetera, et cetera. And I mean,
they're going to take your
details,
information. Well, it is a way for basically anyone new to have a bank account. Like that. What age can you have a bank account right now? Like when you're born? I don't know. You have to have, so yeah, basically tracking you from birth.
Yeah, well, getting you in the system right away from birth, and then it's just something it gets you used to it, and it's easy, right? Just like, oh yeah, that's my government bank account, or maybe that's just my bank account, and the government will put money in when they want. I mean, because presumably they don't have the money now in the budget or in the treasury, so this will all be new printed. Somehow created money. Maybe it's T-bills that they raise the money for, but essentially they're making up digital money and putting it into an account, and like that meets a lot of the qualifications of a CBDC, right?
Yeah, and they say, okay, so when the child turns 18, they can spend the money in one of four ways: higher education expenses, other qualifying post-secondary credentialing, small business or small farm expenses, or purchasing a first home. So you can already see kind of what they're allocated this towards. It's like the government's making an 18-year investment in education, small business, and purchasing homes. All right. I don't know how many dollars is this actually going to be? Should we move on to the next item?
Yeah, anyways, it's interesting.
It's a creative way to implement quantitative easing.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's great that they're promoting having babies. I'd love to see it in more of a family context, but yeah. That might be hard to implement. But okay, big beautiful bill. You've got that down. You just like the name. Is that why you wrote that down?
I wrote it down because I heard it. It sounded cool.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shot at Biden's Build Back Better (BBB). Right. Which coincidentally, I think, is where U.S. debt is heading to, like a triple B, down from a triple A. I think they just got downgraded again. But yeah, big bloated bill. So one of the things they want to do is increase the debt ceiling, and by like $5 trillion. Right? Normally, every year they just
not a big jump there.
Well, normally they'll do like, I don't know, I think maybe it was $1 trillion the last time, enough to sort of do the spending for the year. But this one's like, nah, I want some room to like really, really grow and spend money. And so it's like, you just see it's the uniparty, whoever's in power, right? We just had all this theater with Doge, right? Elon Musk going in and slashing and cutting and saving money and yay, rah, rah, rah. Yeah. And that was good. But what did they save? Like $100 billion. And then you get this huge bill that's just like pork barrel politics, right? All kinds of nonsense in there. And
but 5 looks smaller than like 500,000, right? So if you just do 5 trillion and just put the T instead of the B, it's people don't have any concept of what $1 trillion is, right? Like you do those, like, just Google like how to visualize $1 trillion, and it's just this absurd amount of like you do the visualization of like $1 bill in a packet, and that's like 10,000, and then you put that on a skid and a pallet and whatever, then it's like the size of the Empire State Building. You're like, wait a minute. Oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't know how big the actual bill is, but that's the debt ceiling increase. So it's large, and it just we're looking at the same thing here, right? We have no budget. But the estimates that have been put out show like massive, massive deficits, massive spending. And that's I think that's a theme across the world, right? Is that governments are just going to keep spending money, keep on printing. And so, I mean, it's one thing you can count on, I guess. The government's going to spend money.
Spending things that they don't have. Like, what's the value of the money when they just increase it by 5 trillion? Like... I mean, with this is not in effect, and this is a multi-year proposal, right? Like it's not just 5 trillion 1 year, boom, we spend it all. Like it's
the debt ceiling.
We can build up to.
It's the debt. So they have a rule, right? That like we are not going to get into debt beyond X amount. So every year they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we kind of hit that.
If
Let's-
you set
okay.
those kind of rules in your household, like, look, you can't do this, children, and then they do it. It's like, yeah, I know, but we'll just raise the ceiling. All right, you can't do that if this, this, and this. All right, and then they do that, and you're like,
You can
I
have
can't
one
do that
cookie.
and that if, yeah. It's like,
Okay. You had your cookie and you want another one. Shoot, what do we do? Okay, listen, we're going to
you can have two
have
cookies.
two. But that is it. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
like, that's it, guys. Oh, you want another one
But
and you're
Dad,
crying? Oh, man. Okay, 3, but no more.
no more until I pay off the MasterCard and go back to Costco.
Well,
Quick,
that's
we
the
gotta get in
problem,
the
right?
car and go to
Eventually you
Costco.
run out of cookies. And, and then you got to pay the piper, or the fiddler or
Yeah.
something. But anyways, yeah, big increase. Lots of money printing. You can count on that for the
So
foreseeable
you're saying
future.
we should all get into fiddling or piping, and we might find a job with some of this $5 trillion coming our way.
I mean, we'll talk about it later, but yeah, if you're GC Strategies in Canada, then absolutely. But okay, we'll hit that later. You got something here about Ireland. What's happening in Ireland?
So what's happening is I was sitting in my chair looking at the news, and then this thing popped up. I was like, that can't be happening in Canada. And then I pulled up the news article and I started reading it, and I'm like, there's no reference to Ireland, nothing. And I'm just like, usually I get Canadian news.
Yeah.
I'm reading through this, like, major reforms, like you can't raise rent for 6 years, whatever. And then I get to the bottom, it's like, yeah, Ireland. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
It's Ireland.
So I put it up there, and because I was kind of nervous about, is there an announcement that totally blindsided me? But it looks like they have some different policies. So I don't even know if we want to get into that.
No, but that's their. Well, Ireland's interesting because they went from an underperforming economy to like a hot economy, right? In the space of a decade or something. And they did that a lot by lowering taxes. And so some people are like, hey, that's a place we should emulate, right? Housing values have gone up. Housing investments, like Airbnb was a hot thing to do there for a while. But yeah, it looks like socialism is catching up with them now a little bit. And yeah, every 6 years. It's interesting to see these things because they percolate around, right? If one sort of Western country does it, and I don't want to say it's like successful because most of these policies aren't successful, but if one does it, like a lot of people will look at it and be like, well, they did it, so we should.
Yeah, it's kind of like meddling into the market dynamics, right? And just saying, well, like, let's just force this upon the marketplace and see how that plays out over the next 5 years. And well, that didn't work. Well, let's not remove it. Let's just add a new layer and change.
Yeah.
Try to change people's behavior. And
yeah, it must have been we didn't put enough regulation in. So. Okay, so some Canadian stuff. We got so we just are on the heels of Mark Carney announcing or saying Happy Eid to everybody, the Muslim holiday.
I have to describe what that is exactly because
yeah, EID.
I never heard.
And he said a few things like these are the values we must embrace, and the values of Eid are the values of every Canadian. So a lot of people, including myself, took offense to this because I'm like, does that mean I gotta, like, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things I could say that are not very palatable. But
so did he just announce that Canada is a Muslim nation?
No, he didn't. No, he didn't outright say that. But we have to share the values of Eid.
Right.
And then he tried to soft by like because the values of it's fluff stuff like happiness and wonderfulness. Those are all great
celebration,
values.
Feast.
Diversity and inclusion and all this stuff. And it's like, well, those are not the value. Those are not Muslim values. They're not Islamic values. And I mean, it's maybe it's still a little bit controversial, but it's my view that Islam is the biggest threat to the West. And I think that's saying a lot. So Stephen Harper said that very thing like 20 years ago, probably. Islamicization is the biggest threat to the West. And like people were like, oh, this guy's a racist and this and that. And even now, if you say that, I think people would say, some people would say that's terrible. Right? How can you say that? But more and more, you look at our society, you look at protests, you look at constant organized prayers outside of churches in public square, like on public roadways, all this stuff. It's all designed to normalize it and intimidate regular people, I think. And when I say regular, I mean non-Islamic people, right? And there's stated goals. I don't understand why people think this is so controversial. Because if you listen to leading Muslim clerics, and there's many out there, not like the moderate ones, but the ones who are actually devout Muslims, like this is a stated goal, is to spread Islam throughout the whole world and to implement Sharia law in the whole world, and especially in the West. And so you're allowed to go to the West, to a infidel country, and accept aid from them. So that, like, it's a common tactic, right? For people from, we say third world, but largely it's Muslim countries, to come to a place. We see it in the UK, especially the US, not as much, but Canada certainly, is to come to the country and just go on benefits, on welfare, or whatever the system is called, without any intention of working. But that's fine, because the infidel is paying for you and then your family, and then, maybe your second wife. I think there's a guy in Peterborough. He got community housing, and one for him and his family, and then another one for his second wife and their family. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we smoking? And it's not, because it's not like it's not a secret. It's not like they haven't said. There's countless clips on the internet of Muslims saying, like, we are going to take over your country or this country. We want Sharia law here. It's like, that's not what we're about.
So you're saying
it's not what this country was built on. That's not why it's available for you to come here and have a better life, because we didn't build it on Islamic values. So, anyways, that's my little rant about that.
Yeah.
And so
infidel just has that kind of connotation of like moron, like you. Whenever I hear that word, I'm like, wow, you guys are just kind of ignorant.
But yeah, when Kearney says like these, we must all embrace these values. It's like what values of taking a gay person up to the top of a building and throwing them off, and then stoning them to finish them, because that's what happens in Gaza. And so I saw a video of a lesbian woman who was like, if you're with Queers for Palestine, so that's a movement, right? Queers for Palestine, because they're protesting settler colonialism and everything that's bad in this world. And she's like, let's actually talk about this, guys, because she's gay, and she's looked into this, and she's like, I don't think we want to promote this ideology, because if you're gay, it's not good for you. Like, you may defeat
the worst.
You may defeat the white patriarchy, because that's it's the common enemy for these causes, right? But what happens after that? Like, where are we left? Well, I tell you what, Islam's going to win over queer theology. So I don't think it's Queers for Palestine; it's Queers or Palestine. But you're seeing. So, anyways, this woman, she'll take people aside and just like show them videos and inform them, like, here's what actually happened. Like, I don't know if you've seen the videos, like, which country in the Middle East is safest for gay people?
Isn't it
right?
Israel?
And it's like, there's only one. Because people are looking at it going, like, I don't know, maybe like Lebanon or Syria. Like, guys, you're way off. It's Israel. It's the only one with a pride festival. It's the only one that enshrines gay rights into law, which I'm not defending, but I'm just pointing out the sort of hypocrisy and ignorance, right? So, yeah, Queers or Palestine. But you're seeing that tension build now, where I think it's going to come to a head at some point. And eventually people they're going to break from each other. And it's just like the revolution eating its young, right? At some point, one of them is going to be eaten by the other, by the bigger force in the anti-patriarchy.
We'll have to see, because like both of them are obviously driven by ideology or like ideas, right? I believe in this to be true. This is the reality about the world, and they're going to have to put their, I guess in some sense, their life where their mouth is, right? Like, hey, I believe this, and I'm willing to stand up while that guy believes that I should die. Well, like, that's a serious matter, right?
So it will be interesting to see where that goes. But
so on the Canada side, so Carney said, like, hey, we had to kind of espouse these values, but like we also have pride here.
Well,
too.
then a
So,
few
like,
days later, he was hoisting the pride flag
Right.
somewhere after doing a land acknowledgement. So,
Right.
yeah.
So we got
I mean,
all of our boxes checked, and he can move
exactly.
on. Right.
Exactly. And
So
and the sad, I don't know if maybe it's not sad, but like, they don't believe in any of it when it comes down to
No.
it, right? Even the environmental stuff. But they're going to push it, and they're going to, like you said, check the boxes, right? I don't know if you've seen any videos of the new public safety minister. Like,
No, you wrote down that they're hilarious, so now I got to check them out.
yeah, I mean, we don't have time to go through it. We want to talk about some serious stuff, but Gary Ananda Sangari, I think is his name. And so Minister of Public Safety, he's already recused himself from anything to do basically with Sri Lanka or the Tamil Tigers. And it's like, because he has a Sri Lankan background. I don't know exactly what the ties are there, but it's like, maybe you're not the guy for public safety then. If we have issues with terrorist groups, which Tamil Tigers have been an issue in Canada, and fundraising and so forth, like maybe you could do something else where you're not in a conflict of interest and have to recuse yourself. Like, come on.
So he's public safety, like border security, and that's his role.
Yeah, public safety. So he's gotten a few, like, it's all political theater, but it's still fun to watch, right? In the House of Commons, where the Conservatives, like, it's his first day on the job, right?
Yeah.
Conservatives are up saying, like, okay, do you know, does the minister know what an RPAL is? That's the restricted, I don't even know what it is, but the restricted, like, it's your pistol license, right?
Right.
And he's like, no.
Position
and do you know
and
what this or that is? And he's like, no. And they're like, okay, you want to because they're trying to restrict weapons even more, and they're like, you want to restrict all these weapons? You have no clue about what any of this stuff is, right? And his response was like, well, it's my third day on the job, and just like they're making him look like a complete moron. And then there's a couple other ones. I can't remember what they were, but it was just. It's funny and sad to watch because you're like, this is supposed to be a serious position, and the guy is obviously just an appointee, and he's going to move an agenda forward, but he has no thoughts of his own.
Like, if you're another country watching this, in a sense, political theater, and well, Canada's very secure. They have a really knowledgeable guy in charge of security, and huge threat to the world. Yeah,
all of our ministers, like you got. Jolie out there, she's just an embarrassment. Like it's not serious people. The new immigration minister. Yeah, okay. I was gonna.
So we should be walking around feeling shame, but still laughing all the time. Is what you're saying?
I think you have to laugh, or you're just going to be angry and depressed. But no, we have a new immigration minister who is clueless. Right? They're asking her like. How many people of the 500,000 people who have overstayed their visa welcome, like how many have we sent home? And she's like, well, that's a question for CBSA. And then, the next question is like, well, but you're setting immigration targets. Like, if you're going to set targets, shouldn't you know how many people are here and how many you're going to send home before you figure out how many more to let in? And, what happened with... Why is immigration such a mess? And she's like, well, COVID happened and it was very hard to do things. And again, it's just like, just embarrassing. You expect more of these people. But I guess at this point we don't. Bill C2, speaking of public safety. So this is one they're trying to push through, right? Which should worry, I think, everybody. Should. So this is the Strong Borders Bill. So there's some good stuff in there about shoring up our borders and restrictions on asylum claims because they're getting ridiculous, right? Almost all the asylum claims are from Indians, like folks from India. As far as I know, that's a democracy. There's no big persecution going on there. So, the game is you try to get your permanent resident ticket, and if through education or through a temporary foreign worker thing. And if that doesn't work, then you claim asylum, right? That's just the next step. And it's all a scam from the get-go. there's, I don't, you probably haven't because I spend more time on X than you, but well, sympathy videos, right? You have this younger Indian woman saying like, "Hey, like, what am I supposed to do? I came here, I spent a lot of money to get here. I paid 20 grand for to my employer for this job, and and he's taking advantage. I'm working more hours than I'm supposed to, and then the government's telling me I got to leave." And I'm just like, hold on a second. You paid 20 grand to your employer for not just for a job, but for the letter to say that like you're an essential employee. Like, you're scamming us, and you're just saying it out loud because nobody cares. I mean, people should care, but nobody does. And so it's like, there's no sympathy. You were trying to scam the system. You knew what our system was and how to scam it, and you paid the money, and instead the system scammed you. That's how it's set. That's what it's set up to do, and we should have sympathy for you. Like, go home, get out of here. I got no. You're trying to come here and scam us. Absolutely not. So, anyways, they're trying to. This is related to the asylum claims, right? Where people are just claiming asylum if everything else fails, and that's not what it's for. So, they're going to get rid of some of that. Like, you can't come here for a year and then claim asylum, like. Or you got to do it from wherever you are, like, because people are coming up from the States and claiming asylum, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, again, it's just abuse of the system. So, sure, that's great. But in that, they want to have broad powers to open people's mail without them knowing, like before in transit. They want to be able to place trackers on anybody's phone, like electronically, without your consent. No cash transactions for any businesses, essentially, above $10,000. And that could be cumulative, right? It could be like, I'll give you $5 grand today and then $5 grand tomorrow, or in a month or something. Like, nope, that's
not just
it's
a single
absolutely
transaction.
not allowed. Yeah. So, and then also getting information about your internet use from your ISP. Again, without these are all things that required a warrant before, because it's like privacy, but they want to undo all of that, and I mean, just surveillance state, right?
In
and
the
it sounds
of safety, security, convenience to some degree.
It's always in the name of safety, right? This is my broader rant about the feminization of society, and because women have more of a focus on safety, which is cool for kids, but then men and fathers will have more of an emphasis on learning and exploring, and what's that?
I feel like the cool things for kids are the more dangerous, exciting things.
100%.
Yeah. Well, you said it's cool for kids. I'm thinking like, why don't I climb up that rock cliff over there? That sounds cool. Like,
well, it's not just cool; it's essential.
Yeah.
Right? For kids to explore and to develop like bravery and then also wisdom. Like, that was climbing all the way up that tree was a bad idea because I fell down and broke my arm.
I know. But otherwise, how would like Band-Aid sales, like they would slow way down, Think about everybody, Mark.
Oh, man. No, I don't. I just think about myself and my own settler, colonial, white patriarchal viewpoint and family.
Speaking of colonial, I was just down in Tennessee. You drive through like the old villages. What is it? The old settlement. And it's called Cades Cove.
Okay.
And it's like 250 years old. I think they had one church, one mill, one house, one mill, and two churches. It's like, I don't know where all the people came from.
Was there people living there?
No, a lot of wildlife, and
but
just a totally, like talk about dealing with reality on a day-to-day basis. Like these people hewed the logs by hand and then set the house up, and then like the thing burned down, and like just your reality.
Guess I got to do it again.
Yeah, like that's called learning in real life. I don't know, but we've come a long ways, and we've detached from reality so far, right?
That's what built our societies, right? Like, we talk about the Western European societies, which are the root of all evils. Like, that's how we built them, was through a danger. And it wasn't perfect, no, but warfare, dangerous stuff. But anyways,
We don't invest.
That's a rant
in
for another
those
time.
Sorts of things in Canada. We don't invest in those sorts of things like the entrepreneurial, dangerous, risky things in Canada. We just do safe real estate, get a house, steal it from a homeowner who can't afford it. We'll talk about that.
That'll change. So the family. We're talking about family, and this one I think I'll share. See if I can work how to do this.
Do you have a video, or do you just have a link?
No, just a graphic. So
okay,
we'll, here we go. So Waterloo
this is close
District
to home.
School
This is
Board.
Waterloo.
Yeah, Waterloo, like not far. And if it's in one school board, it's in all of them, right? They're all doing the same nonsense. So if you're just listening, I can read this, but there's a series of slides. I just have the one here that deals with family. So the heading is Dismantling Whiteness at W-O. So Waterloo, Oxford is the region. Words matter. And so, and again, so look at this through the viewpoint of feminization of our society, right? And, draw your own conclusions. But so family in quotation marks, bullet point, identified as harmful by our racialized students. So same thing like being on time and being polite, right? These are all harmful ideas by racialized people. And so what that means is people who ain't white. Okay, fine. It implies, and so I want to point out that the problems that they point out are the things that we've talked about, and not entirely here, but the root of it anyways, that we've talked about as bonuses or features of family. So you can see how diametrically opposed these two viewpoints are. So you have, a Christian viewpoint. It's also a viewpoint that is shared by people who sort of value Christian heritage, but may not be Christian themselves. But which the other side would say, no, this is a settler, colonial, white, patriarchal viewpoint that must be torn down, and so we have to be against it. That's queer theology or queer philosophy, right? Is you take the prevailing narrative and then you go diametrically opposed to that. So, anyways, family implies that it values positions of, in brackets, male authority and hierarchy. A nuclear family structure, not the same for everyone. Okay, so yeah, that whole idea of authority and hierarchy, and then especially male authority in a family, no good. Nuclear family structure, no good. And then it talks about niceness. So there's a whole bunch of values on these slides, and niceness is one of them. So niceness, it asks for obedience, no rooms for questions or criticism. So the first part of that, I'd say I ask my children for obedience, 100%. We demand it. It's essential. Now, no rooms for questions or criticism. No, there is some room for that for sure. But then the next one is niceness engenders an expectation to prioritize families' needs and wants, sacrificing personal boundaries. And I'm like, yes, that's like I couldn't have written it better myself. You prioritize in a family. You prioritize the needs of the family. And the wants to a lesser extent, but certainly the needs, and you sacrifice personal boundaries. It's like kids, you're going to start doing chores or more chores. Like here's a new chore. You're going to do dishes, right? Like that is going to cut into your free time. But you're going to wash, you're going to dry, you're going to put away. Like beautiful system.
And you turn around in 15 minutes and it's nice and clean, and then you can go play.
Yeah. And
that's how we do it in this house. All right.
Yeah, but I guess that is so. Okay, here's the oh yeah, this isn't on the slide, but basically they're training that the word family is a harmful concept rooted in white supremacy. And I've read this elsewhere too, right? This is a white supremacist viewpoint, and we'll stop sharing now. The notion of family. So it's like, if you're on one side of the fence. Like if you're on the hard left, like you're like, yes, yay. And if you're on maybe our side of the fence, I guess, you would say like the far right, which I don't think that's true, but people would say that. But there's a whole bunch of people in the middle who are looking at this and like they'll be swayed by the arguments. So we got to come back and say like, no, family's good. Family is essential to building the society that everybody wants to come to is built on the notion of I'm banging the table again. Everything's shaking. Is built on the notion of family and of having obedience, having hierarchy, right? And for the Christian, it's Jesus comes first, and then you have the other social structures that come out of that. So family. And then you have church, and you have society in general. Right? Yeah. And even my dog agrees. She's barking her head off. So, anyways, this is...
Did you get rid of all your puppies? Or?
Well, I don't know if I said this last time, but the puppies were born in the States. I don't know if I can get that $1,000 per
puppy. Well, okay, so this thing you brought up about the Waterloo School Board, and which I guess you could kind of make a bit of an assumption to say other school boards might be considering or looking at the exact same sort of stuff. Do you think that's like a top-down, like the school board, these people are saying, hey, we need to implement this? Or is it like the teachers are out there and they're interacting with the students, they're going, look, like half the people don't come from a family. They don't like family. They don't value family. They, in fact, hate family and hate white people and hate kids and hate society. So therefore, we need to change our policy and be able to interact with these people. And where is this coming from? Is it both sides?
Do you think that if you've got a kid who comes from a single, and usually it's single mother, a single parent family, and gets let's assume the best, that his mother's working a lot, doesn't have time for him like that, he wouldn't go over to a friend's house where they have a nuclear family and wouldn't look at that and go wow, the dad is around and he loves and values his children, and there's rules in that house, but wow, I would love this. It's a nice clean house, right? As opposed to I'm just going to go home, nobody's going to see me, and I got to watch TV or play video games. What do you think the kids want, right? So no, it's 100% top down. So if you drill into this, you can see the key people, the key players at the top of the food chain at these various school boards, and you see the same people popping up again and again. And it's always these people who have formal training in this, what I would call Marxist school of thought, anti-settler colonialism thing that you hear people bandying about, right? It's top down. Even and this is why a lot of this stuff comes out, right? Why did these slides come out? Because some teacher was there and was like, this is enough. I'm all for being nice and treating everybody equally, but this is crazy. So boom, it goes out to the public from these people. And, anecdotally, it seems that a lot of teachers don't agree with this, but they're being put through this training. So some embrace it enthusiastically, others not.
This whole aspect, rules are bad, or rules actually create liberty or freedom and a framework for acting confidently within them, right? If a child, like you said, that same child goes into a household where there are rules and there's tasks and there's hierarchy, there's authority. Well, submission to authority, provided that authority is a Christian, godly, filled with a character of humility and some whatever, you know what I mean? If that authority is showing those values, then the kid will willingly want to submit, and that'll actually be liberating and freeing and create a much better context for them to thrive.
Well, I think anybody with experience with kids knows that they do much better when there's structure. When there's no structure, kids don't do well because they don't know, how do I act? What do I do? When there's structure, whatever that structure is, they do much better.
Yeah.
So, and coincidentally, I will say, Islam means submission. That's one of the tenets of Islam, right? Is submission to Allah. So I don't know how this anti-whiteness stuff is going to go over with Muslim parents, but that's why they have their own schools too, right? Because they don't take to this.
Everybody has their own schools, and yet we still pay taxes to fund. I don't understand.
Oh man. Okay, listen, we got a few things to talk about yet, and we haven't even gotten to it. So you saw Michael Saylor being interviewed by Jordan Peterson.
Yes,
I have not. I've seen a few clips, but not the whole thing.
My work is easy.
And this is this is 2 days ago, I guess. I don't know. So I don't, blame you for not seeing it. But if people don't know who Michael Saylor is, like, because I keep talking to people, oh, who's Michael Saylor? Like, just go look it up and start learning. But so I'm assuming most of the audience knows who Jordan Peterson is.
Probably.
But Michael Saylor is the CEO of Strategy, publicly traded company, formerly called MicroStrategy. And he's kind of been the pioneer of corporations buying Bitcoin with their cash reserves, their holdings. So this is a really, really fascinating talk for me anyways, just to kind of hear these two people talk back and forth about, how Peterson has a bit of a way of getting into Saylor's like personal story that I think some other podcasts might not, but I think there's still probably a good percentage of our listeners who haven't jumped on the Bitcoin bandwagon and haven't fully understood it either. So I found this to be like a really interesting way of describing what it is and why it's important. Because this guy's interesting. Like, he's put in, I think he has, like, his corporation is over like 500,000 Bitcoins. Like, that's a significant investment,
huge.
right? So like, either this guy is nuts and very risky, but he's at the helm of a publicly traded company, and he has a lot of responsibility. A lot of people, he's very accountable to his shareholders and everybody involved, right? And yet, like, he has this conviction. So like, where does this conviction come from? Like, he's a smart guy. He has like this engineering background. He has like, very educated, very experienced. And what's interesting is like his engineering perspective. And I think this goes back into like what we were talking about, we've always been talking about, is like this connection to reality and like human beings with our ideas and our desires interfacing with the real world. And we may believe that, family is not important, but there's a reality is like husband and wife come together, they have a have a child. And that, like you can't just, throw that in the garbage. Like there's a real aspect to life, to nature, and to like he references the natural laws of like gravity. Like, imagine if the government came in and they're like, hey guys, we're going to try and legislate gravity away, or like just how absurd that would be, right? And then the same kind of concept that applies in engineering world, and he uses the example of like, an airplane, right? If you have a hole in the fuselage of an airplane, it's not going to fly, or it's going to kill everyone inside. That's a reality. And so an engineer is tasked with the idea of like, how do I work with imperfect materials and imperfect processes to create something that can achieve flight, or that can achieve whatever it is, right? And so all like the different technological developments throughout history have been, one way or another, like standing on the shoulders of previous, technologies and achieving something that, we couldn't do before. And, but it's all working with imperfect things and imperfect people and trying to compensate for those things, right? So that applies in engineering, but also in the monetary system. So that's really interesting. And like, he made that link. You got to watch this and tell me what you think. But it same goes if you have like, he used the example of the leak in the fuselage of the airplane. Well, if you have a leak in the monetary system, or if you have some imperfection in the money, well, chaos ensues, right? And it's unavoidable because it's just this reality. Like, it's just, things are going to go awry because, there's a hole in your system.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's so many tidbits in there. So for people who are interested in kind of diving in, learning more about Bitcoin and like engineering principles and whatnot, go watch this fascinating interview. I think he wants to go. Saylor wants to go on Rogan. We got to have him on our show first. But
interesting. So that's one of the. Michael Saylor is popular enough now that he has haters even within the Bitcoin community.
Yeah.
And some stuff is for good reason. But one of the knocks is that when he goes on, if he does interviews, which he doesn't do a lot, he controls the narrative, and he just talks about what he wants to talk about. So for him to go on Rogan would be that would be really cool. To have people like push back a little bit and challenge some of his, because I don't agree with everything that he espouses either. But Christian viewpoint aside, even some of the other stuff. But certainly he's been a pioneer in the space, and you see a lot more companies are jumping on this Bitcoin treasury bandwagon now as well, right? Just saying our excess profits, we're gonna buy Bitcoin with it. So that's kind of cool to see, and yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and like if you think that's crazy, then maybe just do more research on what they're actually doing and why. I don't know. The other thing that he said was, because Peterson at the end of the show asked him, like, is quantum computing gonna, be able to hack into your password or like a solar flare or whatever gonna kill the whole system? And he kind of just said, well, like, Bitcoin is an ideology that is manifested as a protocol that is materialized as a network across which an asset runs. So this is like way beyond for maybe a lot of people listening, but it just, if you listen to that part and try to understand it and work it out, I think it's kind of profound, because he basically compares like this new digital money to the English language. Like, hey, if you hack your email server or whatever, do you think that's going to break the English language? No. Well, he's saying, well, actually, this new monetary network that we're creating right now, like through Bitcoin that everyone's involved in, it's kind of like the English language, right? It's just a protocol that we all kind of can use in different ways. So it can't be destroyed. It's like we discovered this. So same thing with like the number 0, right? Like we discovered the numbers, like it existed and we didn't know about it, and then we discovered it, and like you can't rediscover it, and it's path dependent, right? Like we didn't know about it, now we know about it, now we'll never not know about it, and we can use it. Maybe there's another number we don't know about. I don't know. But history is just full of all these different things, right? It just points to like how finite we are. God's kind of like put all these different things in our world, and like 200 years ago, could you even conceive of having a digital world and having digital money, and this being like there's absolute digital scarcity and it's programmed into reality, and we're discovering all these things. It's profound.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, God is the God of technology as well, and we think we're so smart when we discover all these things, right? But it's like we're uncovering what's already there. We're not making something new.
Yeah.
So,
and we're doing it in our like limited scope, and we're fighting about it, and we're what is this? God's like, well, that for millennia was there, and I know it is humbling, right?
It is. So one thing we wanted to talk about, we don't have any time left to talk about it, but John Passalis, who I think would be great to get on the show. He's a realtor, Realosophy, I believe is his brokerage. And it's interesting how we sort of follow a lot of realtors for like financial stuff, right? But
I think there's a reason for that, which is what he gets into, right?
Yeah, 100%. So he's got, I don't know if this was his doctoral thesis or something, or it was spawned by it, but I think he just did a doctorate. Anyways, the great sell-off, how hypercapitalization is driving Canada's housing affordability crisis. So he's got like, I think it's a pretty good document. I haven't read the whole thing, but I heard like the Coles Notes summary of it. Like what, I don't know. Did you have any things you wanted to sort of tease out of this, Brent?
Yeah. So he's kind of looking at, Canada, but he also kind of references, a lot of countries, the Western countries, where housing has become unaffordable. But Canada specifically, I guess, is where his area of research was. But we'll definitely have to try and get him on the show and go into this more detail. But essentially, there is a crisis in affordability in Canada. We all know about that. But where did that come from? So he's trying to figure out, like, you rewind like 50 years, like around the war time, people coming back from the war, until kind of, maybe the 90s or 80s. And what limited house prices? Like what was the thing that kind of put the cap on house prices back then? And he's found, I guess, that it was incomes, right? Like the people had to buy houses, and how do they buy houses? Well, with their income. And if their income wasn't sufficient, well, then they couldn't pay more for the house. If you think about a housing marketplace in a country that is limited by the incomes of the people in the country, there's a certain price threshold that people can go, right? So, maybe it's a certain percentage over your income. What did we talk about? It was like 5 times your income.
5 times.
And so that's now changed where, it's like way more than 5 times your income. And why? And what is capping the prices now? Like why did the top blow off? So it's not based on income anymore. What's it based on, Mark?
It's based on credit. And so we've talked a lot about like other things like supply and demand, about M2, creation of money, but closely tied to that, which I think he does a great job of identifying here, is the availability of credit, right? As soon as credit became more readily available, like 80s, 70s, maybe starting in the 70s, but 80s, 90s especially, and then things like HELOCs, where the government allowed more HELOC. I don't know the whole story, but
so he calls the HELOC, so the home equity line of credit, right?
Yeah,
there's a line of credit that pulls the equity out of your house so you can spend it now, and that, like, he calls it an ATM, right? It's like basically turning your house, which used to be a place where you live, into an ATM. It's like, well, hey, my property value went up, and now we can get a HELOC. Well, if that didn't exist, then you wouldn't use your house like a bank. But because it does, you can borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars out of your house. And what do people do with that? Well, they buy more houses. So that's funny, because it's like, that's the strategy, right? And why 100%. Is it the strategy? Because it works. Well,
yeah. I mean, yeah, like I think we've talked about it. I know I've talked about it and espoused this. Like, this is a strategy, right? If you have buy a second property, or maybe use your first property with the equity that's built up to buy another one, because that worked. And then you can do that same thing with the second one, being careful not to over leverage, right? If you're at 80% on all your properties, that's a problem. But yeah, the idea is you use the wealth that has built up, and then you can buy more properties and continue that cycle. And a lot of people have done this very successfully. But he sees this as a major problem, right? And, I can agree to a certain extent.
I don't know if I got necessarily from him that it was like a major problem so much as, oh, maybe it is, but so much as that's the reality. Like it's not going back. It is no longer, now houses are not just places where you live. They are places where you live that happen to be your retirement saving plan and your ATM, your bank, your source of funds for investments, right? It's like you've financialized your house. So that's like the subtitle of his report is how hyper capitalization is driving Canada's house. Like we've turned our houses into capital investments rather than living spaces. Yeah,
and I've heard him talk about this, and he does see it as a problem, right? And this is a guy who sells houses for a living, right? Well, because of the effects of young families, as racist as that may sound, not being
He's the problem.
Well, and you see, like, because people will talk about this. There's a few other people in the housing space.
So maybe these people that are putting forward that we don't need families are so far ahead of us. They see we can't afford a house. We shouldn't even have a family. Yeah, just get rid of houses, get rid of families.
No, but there's a few people in the space, like Mike Moffat is one, Michael Scooterud is another, and you can follow them both on X. They're pretty. They post a lot of content. Who talk about this and how this is it's a problem that families can't find houses. It's hard to find a family house, and like the amount of hate they get from people, like, oh, why are you talking about families? Like, not everybody's in a family, and like the same stuff that we were just talking about, right? And they're like, dude, I'm just pointing out there's an issue, and like a condominium, if you have a family, probably not going to work for you, like a 2-bedroom condo. Like, people want other options. Whether you agree with
a family,
that,
you probably don't have time to be on Twitter posting about stuff because your kids need to eat. And
I find a little bit of time, Brent.
Okay. I don't know. I don't know where you find the time. It's like, there's so much to do.
Anyways, yeah, the whole idea of the rise of credit, which 100%, that's another, I don't think it's the only thing, but it's another factor because you saw that during COVID, right? When interest rates were down to zero or close to zero, what happened to house prices? They went up because people could afford to pay more. It's not the price of the asset, it's the payment. What is the amount of the payment? And then surprise, surprise, rates went up. People are like, I can't afford this anymore. The payment's too much.
Yeah.
Not so much the price of the house, but the payment. Can't afford it. And what has happened to house prices? They've gone down. So we've talked about this, consumerism, and people are not focused on long-term value or the actual cost of things. They're just focused on what is the payment. Can I spread my pizza order out over 4 payments or whatever it is, right? You laugh, but yeah, you can do it, right? My Uber Eats.
It's $1 a bite. Every time you take a bite, sends you a bill.
Well, it's actually $2 a bite when you finance it, but
shoot. What kind of interest rate? Like, how long are you taking to eat this thing, man?
Yeah, but it's crazy to see that. And I mean, a lot of this stuff is just pointing towards eventually, like I said, the piper has to be paid. The bill will come due, and what is going to happen when that happens? And I mean,
So just to go into further the picture that he paints. So he also adds this layer of global money. So in Canada, you have you have access to credit, you have cheap money. It flows into housing because housing is scarce, hard to produce. Everyone needs it. So it's kind of like, well, if everyone needs it and you can't make more of it, and I'm getting all this cheap money, I just might as well buy this. So very smart if you're investor, and that's what everyone became. But he's talking about global money. So money from outside Canada also sees this, and it's happening everywhere around the world. And everyone's like, wait, where's a safe, secure place where I can trust the government and I can trust the banking system, and I like the population dynamics and the housing is within reach or whatever. Okay, Canada looks great. So all this cheap kind of
in Australia,
global,
very similar.
It just pours into
stories.
the housing market and further distorts it, right? So it's not even your local market where local investors are doing this. It's the global side of things, right?
Well, and the added benefit for Canada is that we've been so lax on money laundering that if you are... No, that's another one that has been pointed out, right? And I always discounted it, but when you actually look into it,
the bags of cash,
it's huge. The amount of especially Chinese money, but also Iranian and other areas money that came in to buy houses in Canada and absolutely pumped up the prices was crazy. And when they introduced foreign buyer registries, all of a sudden, boom, there's a real impact on house prices. But anyways, that's a bit of an aside to that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to?
Yeah. So
report?
So another thing is basically, this is something I've been reflecting on too. Everybody is, in a sense, an investor now. It's almost we talk about the money system, money losing value. If you're not doing something actively to store your the value of your time that you work for, you're losing it. So you become an investor just by trying to preserve the value of your money. And because real estate over the last 30 years has become the asset that you buy to store your wealth, now everyday Canadians are real estate, but it just kind of goes to every decision you make in real estate has to be a strategic decision, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to buy or sell a home, it's not you're just trying to move your family anymore. It's more well, this is my retirement plan. This is, this has got to be a good decision. This is going to affect my finances in a huge way, in a much bigger way than it would have 80 years ago, right? Where it's just well, okay, we don't want to live here anymore. Let's go move over there. Let's pay for the services of the people who need to do this transaction, and let's go over here. It's like, no, this is before we make a decision, we need to think about this a lot more strategically than we used to.
Well, and it used to be your life circumstances kind of dictated where you lived. But now it's a lot of it is like, where can I afford to live? And that will determine the job I get, what I do with, in terms of family, whether I get married, all that stuff, right? It's a little bit topsy-turvy.
Yeah. And then he talks about like the introduction of like, corporations owning real estate. Like maybe it's not like a business owns their place of business. Like he's talking more like a doctor has an income, but he has a corporation, and because of the tax advantages, he can buy a few properties, and therefore he has a competitive edge because he has tax savings over an individual who's saving up to buy their first home, because he can have his corporate income taxed at a different rate and save a lot quicker, essentially. So there's some of those dynamics, and then like the kind of the big corporations that are investing in housing, seeing it as an asset class, and like pouring in billions of dollars into kind of competing and using technology, right, to kind of get ahead of like the average family wakes up and they're like, oh, hey, I want to, go find a house today. Meanwhile, the algorithms of some multi-billion-dollar U.S. firm have already analyzed all the properties, said, I want this one, this, and this one, and they bought them already. Like, so he calls it the financial battleground. Like Canada's housing is a financial battleground. I thought that was an interesting term.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I agree with all that, except for the edge that, these big corporations have with the algorithms. And I think we've talked about this before, and there's a lot of examples of like these bigger companies that have bought a ton of homes. Zillow was one, for example. And like that's not how you buy real estate, right? You got to do your due diligence. You got to go look and touch and feel the thing. Or, if you aren't, you have to have a representative who knows what they're doing to go do that. Because time after time, these big corporations built up these big portfolios, and they weren't good. They did badly. They didn't pick the right ones. So anyways.
Value is subjective, right? If you could pay more for the exact same house in a different side of the street, well, like if you walk that property and you feel, subjectively, I perceive that this is not as valuable to me. And I try to put myself in the foots and the shoes of like someone else who might be in a different stage of life. Would they value this one or that one, right? And like that nuance is hard to put in an algorithm. And like you said, going there physically and getting an understanding, like I don't know if the algorithms are quite there yet. And if you look at the number of bedrooms, the square footage, you can kind of say, well, that one has more. Yeah, but it's on the wrong side of the railroad tracks, right?
Well, it can be useful for narrowing down, right?
Yeah.
And you can do that yourself, even with filters and stuff. But I did see this just anecdotally from a realtor saying that like the new thing for especially their white clients is to, when they're looking for houses, they will go drive around a neighborhood and see how many Palestinian flags there are hanging out or in the local parks and stuff. And
before making a decision.
Yeah, take that for what it's worth. But anyways,
wow.
I mean, there's bigger questions here, I think, too, about like, okay, where do you invest and what is the future of Canada? And I think we should do another episode on that sometime soon, like, because I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been talking to clients, even just property management clients as well. Like, we're thinking about, do I invest more here? Do I go somewhere else? Like, what do we do? So I think that'll be a good one to talk about. So that's
going to be your cliffhanger, is it?
Yes, and I think, yes. So the introduction of cliffhangers on the Two Stewards show. You'll have to wait till next. There's certain pods I listen to who are like, but if you want to hear it right now, join our club and you get all 3 episodes right away. If you don't want to pay, then you'll just have to wait. If
you want to hear now, here's Mark's cell phone number. You give him a call. Yeah.
We're not quite there yet with the fan club, but maybe one day, Brent. Maybe one day. Anyways, I don't know. You got anything else, Brent?
Well, we could talk about this for a long time, I guess, but
Exactly.
we'll save it for next week and try and get on the track of doing one a week, Mark, instead of one every 3 weeks.
We'll see. Cliffhangers. Okay. Thank you for listening, folks. Till next time.
Steward your wealth wisely.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Two Stewards Show. If you like my voice better, click subscribe.
If you like my voice better, click share.
If you like both, give us a 5-star rating.
To learn more about the show, head on over to twostewards.ca and explore our free resources. To interact with the show, feel free to reach out at hello@twostewards.ca.
We will see you in the next episode. In the meantime, steward your wealth wisely.
Nailed it.